To start off the evening, we have Choices by James McLindon. Prospective client sits at his table across from the debt counselor.
I'm sorry, I just don't get it.
It's pretty simple. It's just disruptive.
No, I know it sounds simple.
Think of it as a choice. We're all about choices. You can choose this or not.
No. I want to choose this. Believe me, I feel like I'm on a hamster wheel just trying to keep up with all the payments. But this this just seems too good to be true.
That's often what disruption looks like. Remember all the things that you used to have to pay for to read, like newspapers and magazines? Now you can get them online for free. We're disrupting the entire debt consolidation industry, sort of like that.
Okay, but I still don't get it.
Tell me what you don't get.
So you pay off my student loans.
You're crushing student loans.
Yes, thank you. My $247,000 in student loans, and all I have to do is pay you $72 a month
Yes.
for 25 years.
Yes.
And that's it. That's all I ever have to pay you.
That's all you ever have to pay us.
Oh, okay, so I'm not really great at math, but I don't think that pays you back.
Yeah, it's only actually about $21,000.
Only $21,000. Okay, now I don't get this even more.
Tell me what you don't get.
What don't I? You give me $247,000 to pay off my debts today, and all I have to give you is $21,000 over 25 years.
Right, mainly to keep you focused.
So you lose money.
No,
Yeah, you lose money. Nobody sets up a business to lose money unless they're like money laundering or something. Like, wait, are you guys money laundering?
no.
What are you doing?
We're providing choices. I think maybe you skipped footnote 7.
I didn't read the footnotes.
You should read the footnotes.
I never do.
You always should.
Okay, fine. What does footnote 7 say?
It answers this question
About whether you're money laundering?
about how we get paid.
So how do you? I mean, after I finish my payments, you'll be short about $230,000, not to mention any interest. So where do you get the rest from? Oh, there's a bunch of hidden fees, aren't there?
There are no fees at all.
Then come on, how do you get your money back from me?
We don't get it back from you.
You don't.
We don't. From you.
Who do you get it back from?
The insurance company.
What insurance company?
You should really read footnote 7.
Just to tell me what insurance company.
Your insurance company.
Why would my car insurance company pay you?
Not your car insurance company, your life insurance company.
I don't have life insurance.
Footnote 7.
I have to get life insurance?
We pay for it.
What good does life insurance do anyone unless I die?
Read footnote 7.
Oh my God, you looked at my DNA. You haven't, you totally, and you found out I must have some horrible genetic abnormality that means I'm going to die young. So that's how you, what are you writing down?
No, please go on. That's a really interesting business model.
Stop it. That's not your business model?
No, it's pretty good though. Way disruptive.
Okay, so I'm not gonna die young.
Well, how would I know that?
There's no DNA stuff on your file on me?
All we have is what you gave us.
I'm not gonna die young.
Wow, not in the next 25 years, as far as I know.
So how do you make money from my life insurance?
How does anyone make money off of life insurance?
Somebody has to die. But you just said I wouldn't.
I said, I don't know anything about your DNA or your health at all for that matter. We don't worry about that. Please read footnote 7. Please.
Okay, fine.
Prospective client returns to reading the pamphlet.
Oh God.
I know, right? The first time I read it, I was like, what? But the more you think about it, the more genius it is. Dis effing ruption. Am I right? Oh, sorry. I just love this product so much. Oh,
I'm not going to agree to this. Does anyone ever agree to this?
no, not at first. But then they think about it and they think, well, when I took out my crushing student loans, I knew that they would impact my life, severely impact my life for whole lot of my life, decades and decades and decades of my life. And see, that's all this really, you just assumed the impact would be front loaded, and all we do is backload it for you.
Me dying in 25 years at 47, that's what you call severely impacting my life?
Well, it seems severe to me.
No, it's severe. It's very severe.
Yes, but what a much better life it will have been these next 25 years anyway, which after all are your prime.
How do you do it?
Do what?
Make it so you get to, collect.
Before we get into details, I think it's best that you get comfortable with the concept first.
Tell me how.
Well, it's up to you. See, choices. Most people opt to handle matters themselves. We'll give you a couple of recommendations, how-tos in the next brochure. It's under self-termination. A lot of people, though, they find they're too squeamish for self-term. When push comes to shove, for them, we offer an appointment service. The AppServe team is excellent. They're guaranteed painless. They can make anything look like an accident. And finally, there are some people that are too squeamish, but also find that they have the actual appointment makes them
freaking terrified.
I call it anxious. For them, we offer a third approach service where you just go about your business and we take it from there. That one's called Dealer's Choice. You don't have to decide now.
A lot of people must just run when their time is up.
Oh, so people are surprisingly ethical about it all. Also, we implant a chip in you that sends us your GPS coordinates.
What if you dig the chip out?
We don't put it anywhere too accessible. You can always say no. We're all about choices here. Quality or quantity. You can live in your rundown studio apartment if you want with a roommate and drive a 15-year-old beater and eat ramen noodles and never take a decent vacation and waste a lot of your life living on the shoulder of poverty.
Or I can have 25 years left only.
25 debt-free years to keep and spend your money to travel, buy a house, have kids, have a life, whatever that means to you. And do you really want to live much longer than that?
My parents got to.
But do you want to? With the rising tides of climate change lapping at your ankles and blowing down your little garnet, with the prospect of pandemics and failed leadership raking and dividing us, with the last shreds of our democracy fraying before your eyes, while the old world order collapses, I don't think it's too much to say that the ones who choose to go with us in many ways are the lucky ones. Hey, it's a big decision. So you take your time, talk to your friends, talk to your family. And if you choose to go with us, please just give me a call.
Debt counselor hands prospective client a card, shakes hands, and begins to leave.
Wait, are you a client?
Debt counselor turns back. He smiles and pulls up his shirt. He points to his back.
There's my GPS car. Take a look on the beach if we ever reopen. You'll be surprised. Call me.
Prospective client looks at his card, snorts in desertion, then stands and throws it in the waste can.
Yeah, right.
Prospective client looks around the small apartment, then sits down and thinks for a few moments. He picks up the trash can, starts to reach in to remove the card, and then stops. Then he pulls it out and looks at it and looks up, uneasy, thinking. Lights down slowly, curtain.
Hi, James.
Hey, John, how are you?
Welcome, welcome. So let's talk a little bit about this wonderful play of yours. And let me ask you, if people are having conversation over coffee and cannoli after it, what are the kinds of ideas and things that you'd want them to talk about after seeing this play?
Well, I think I kind of want us, I guess, to be left in the position of prospective client at the end, where he kind of rejects the idea out of hand, and then he has to think about it. And he takes the card back out, and, we're not sure what he's going to do. I mean, this is not quite realism. It's kind of comic realism, but the debt burdens that we're putting on kids are so crushing now. What I was trying to do was find a way to dramatize it and to create a situation where something, this horrible would be at least something you'd have to think about for a second. And I would hope people over the cannolis would be thinking about it for a second, and what it means, more importantly, that they are thinking about it for a second.
Well, let me ask our two young actors here are close to these kinds of situations. How realistic is it to consider such a modest proposal? Willow, Andrew, do you have a thought on that?
Yeah, well, luckily I don't have $247,000 in student loans, but it's. I mean, I think it really goes to show how far some people will go, or how desperate some people may be. I kind of made up in my mind that prospective client has tried every possible solution to this, and this is his last stop, and he's like, well, I guess I got to do something. So even though this seems like a very crazy way to get it all done, he's like, well, it's either this or that. So
how about you, Andrew? What are you seeing here?
Yeah, so I've worked with this a little bit now, just the script in general, but it still hits me every time I read it. But the monologue that I have, where he's talking about living in a rundown studio apartment with a roommate and a 15-year-old beater. My car is from 2006 and rusting to hell. I'm currently in my studio apartment, my 2-bedroom studio apartment with my roommate, who's not here. And there are ramen noodles on my fridge. So the first time I read through that, I was just like, holy shit, James is here. He's got to be in here somewhere. I don't know, he's been here before, but and then, yeah, I mean, just the whole idea of modest proposal is just ridiculous in a way. It's that kind of absurd of comedy that's also, it's a solution. I mean, it would work in theory, but I just really liked how this was all set up, even as the prospective client being as skeptical as he is at the beginning, and then him kind of being like, I don't want to pay off that debt though at the end. So yeah, I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I thought it was prescient. And satire is difficult to portray on the stage. James, why did you choose this particular tone for this play? Was it just fun?
Partly was fun. Yeah, and I think I don't know. A lot of my plays are comedies with a lot of drama, or drama with a lot of comedy in them. And I like the mix of the two things: something serious and something funny. Hopefully, it helps an audience stay on the ride with you longer. And this one is kind of funny till it's not. Andrew was talking about the speech he gives at the end about the waters rising up around our ankles and our democracy fraying and the like. And the other reason why you have to think about it for a second is, I think people my age are thinking about the world we're leaving our kids and how it differs from our world. And every generation faces issues, but the issues that this generation is going to inherit from us are not often happy ones. And I think that sharpens it all up considerably.
Yeah, and the fact that there's laughter underneath that gives us a very powerful opportunity to respond to our own frailties in this culture, right?
Yeah.
So thank you so much for bringing this to life. And Morgan, did you want to comment at all about the working on the play, or any of the ideas that you were trying to bring through as a director?
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I mean, in terms of the show, I just thought it was, it was really great. I just brought in Willow today, actually, last minute type situation, but I'm so proud of him. He deserves a round of applause for being able to step in and help me out. So I really, really appreciate that. Andrew, I've known for a few years now. We studied abroad together, and I'm so proud of him as well. So I just wanted to thank you both just off the bat. And I think you guys did James's work really, really well tonight. And I think everybody would agree. I think you covered a lot of what I wanted to talk about anyway, just in terms of just how relevant it is today, but also how you based it loosely off a modest proposal, which goes back so far. So it's really a situation that we've all been dealing with for so long in terms of just class and money and doing whatever you have to take to be able to enjoy your life, and what's quality of life versus the quantity of the years that you're living. So that's a lot of themes that I was trying to discuss and explore in rehearsal. So that's about it.
Very good. Yeah, it was interesting for 25 years to choose that number 25, which is a very, very different for younger people like yourself. And James, was that a conscious decision? Is that part of Modest Proposal, or was that just the right number to consider?
No, I wanted to give them a chance to have a family to get their kids launched, and 25 years seemed about right. So that was the main reason for it. I spent some time wondering what the right number was.
Yeah. And and Willow's response at the end that maybe not. I mean, it was a true consideration for you, a true choice, as it were. We're going now to a play called The Broken Heart of Lisa Meitner by Germaine James. The setting is Cambridge, England, 1977. Otto Frisch sits at a small table, scribbling notes to himself in a pocket-sized notepad, checking his wristwatch. Dana arrives. Frisch half stands and motions her to a seat.
Sorry, I'm
Late. What do you say your name was again?
Dana Barron, the playwright. I wrote ahead.
Yes, it's in my book somewhere.
I appreciate you agreeing to meet me. It's not every day I get to meet such a famous man of
Oh,
science.
spare me. Flattery won't change anything. Fact is, I've granted this audience in order to dissuade you.
Dissuade me, but I haven't proposed anything yet.
How old are you, Dana?
23, old enough to recognize injustice like a punch in the gut.
Oh, you've just confirmed my worst nightmare. You're here about my Aunt Lisa. You read an article somewhere about how she was persecuted under the Third Reich and forced to flee her laboratory in Berlin.
And how she was passed over for the Nobel Prize 10 times, 47 nominations.
Yes, you've done your homework. All the same, Lisa Meitner would not have wanted your pity.
I'm not here out of pity, Dr. Frisch, but admiration. It's not too late to set the record straight. Don't you want to see your aunt claim her rightful place in history? Why let a smarmy revisionist like Otto Hahn have the last word?
Smarmy revisionist, huh? Oh, that's good.
You laugh.
Young lady, if you
Dick.
had any idea, not the Hollywood version, the day-to-day, the not knowing.
My father's told me stories. He was a GI, part of the division that liberated Dachau.
Oh, and so you have inherited that horror.
It wasn't forced on me, if that's what you mean. Not the way it was on you. I've read your father was interned there.
Briefly.
Even so, if you'd rather not talk about it.
If I look back, I leave history to that pallid cadre of scholars whose greatest joy is to cloister themselves in a moldy archive for years on end.
I take history and I make it personal through stories. I want to tell Lise Meitner's story.
Don't think me harsh. No one was more devoted to my aunt than I. If I thought that things could be different than they are.
I understand. You worked on the atomic bomb. I would hardly expect optimism. But still, if I were to write such a play, imagine hearing your aunt's words spoken on stage. I love physics with all my heart. It is a kind of personal love, as one has for a person to whom one is grateful for many things.
That was my Tante Lise. She gave herself heart and soul to physics.
Which is why she deserves to be remembered for the pillar she was.
Young lady.
Dana,
what makes you think yourself qualified to write about an era you didn't live, a regime whose brutality you can't possibly conceive, and a woman with whom you've never even exchanged as much as a good day, Fräulein Meitner? Who are you anyway?
No one, really. I have a degree from Cambridge.
But your accent.
Yeah, I'm a Yank. Foreign service kid.
And you've studied science.
English lit, actually. My first play was just produced in London.
The West End.
Off, but the reviews were stellar. One critic called it raw.
Just raw.
Dr. Frisch, I know what you're thinking. How does this pubescent little nobody have the cheek to quote my aunt and talk about her pathetic little play? Do you think it's easy to sit here vivisected by your preternaturally evolved brain? Is it utterly unthinkable that I might genuinely care about Lise Meitner and feel a deep affinity and have something of substance to append to her legacy? What's the use? I shouldn't have come.
Wait. I want to show you something.
Frisch retrieves a photograph and hands it to Dana, who intently studies it.
Your aunt and Han, when was this taken?
1938, November 1938.
But your aunt had already fled Berlin by then.
Exactly. It was taken in Copenhagen.
I've read somewhere about a secret meeting just before Han published his nuclear fission findings.
Findings? Indeed. Han had no idea what he had found. The term nuclear fission didn't yet exist. I coined it in a note my aunt and I published that February.
All this time, you've had proof that Han didn't cut off all contact with Lise Meitner before his discovery.
Dear girl, proof is for rational people in rational times. In any case, I only came across the photo after my aunt's death.
And you've kept this to yourself all this time. You've given up.
Hardly. If I'd given up, would I sit here and let a young woman the age of my granddaughter scold me like a Prussian schoolmom?
That bad, huh?
Well, let's just say we're oddly paired. I'm not in the habit of looking back. I've chosen life, just as my Tante Lise did, just as she would have wanted me to.
Lights down on Frisch and Dana, lights up on Lise Meitner in Berlin, Germany, in her laboratory, spring 1938, prepping for the day's work. Otto Hahn enters.
Ah, you're here early. How is the separations coming along? We can't afford to fall behind.
Have you slept?
Ah, Who can sleep? Fermi and his team are charging ahead like a herd of mating bullocks.
With cutie Joliet hot on their heels.
You'd think it were a war, all of us firing off papers like cannonballs. Are we not on the same side, searching for the same answers?
A bit of friendly rivalry never hurts. The pace is picked up, that's all.
How's Edith?
Oh, I've arranged to stay at the sanatorium.
Oh, such a sensitive soul you married. I'll stop by on my way home and take her some chocolates.
Lisa.
You should hear of a flat for rent. The situation at my current residence has become a bit hostile.
Are you in danger?
I'm quite all right, Herr Hahn. I'm safe here, among friends. The streets are the real terror. One hears such stories beyond belief.
But Lisa.
I know, we're all under strain. Did you hear Goebbels' last tirade? And now with the Anschluss, how will I travel to conferences? And my Austrian passport, it's invalid.
Stop babbling. And listen to me. Nothing is the same as it was believable anymore. You've been denounced.
By whom? Surely not someone at the Institute.
A friend upstairs.
I should have known when he started wearing that greasy brown shirt to the laboratory. Denounced for what exactly?
Your bloodlines, what else? A friend at the ministry showed me the letter. The Jewess endangers the Institute.
I worked here from dawn till dusk, every day for more than 30 years. I built the physics section from its first stone.
Wake up, Lisa. Don't you see? To those people, you are a Jew, full stop.
But I barely know what Judaism is, even if I were a Jew. If they hate me so much, why did they let me stay on in 33?
We all thought it would blow over. Who could have imagined that a pear-shaped ignoramus like Hitler could keep the masses hypnotized year after year after year?
It may still blow over. There are decent Germans.
I wake up thinking it's all been a bad dream. I'll walk to the Institute and not see a single swastika. And we'll all gather in the basement and sing Brahms' Lieder like we used to. Remember?
It wasn't that long ago.
It seems lifetimes.
The work, Otto. If they would just let me work. We are so close to a breakthrough. I feel it, nearer than my own hand. A force waiting to reveal itself. Now, we just need to get a handle on these results.
Well, the decay schemes have been puzzling.
Yeah, but the more confounding the results, the more astonishing the eventual explanation is bound to be.
Well, we all know that the nucleus can't emit anything heavier than an alpha particle.
Know or assume? Perhaps it's time we reconsider our assumptions.
I'm tired, Lisa. The relentless pressure to join the parties, the creeping idiocy I see all around me. If only we could shut ourselves in this laboratory and not come out until we've had all the answers, but we must face the facts. It's over. They want you out.
Just like that?
It's the law.
But how can something so lawless be a law? And what are you, the messenger boy?
Be reasonable, Lisa. Think of the Institute.
When have I ever thought of anything else?
Well, I've begun making inquiries abroad. Denmark, Holland, Sweden. You're sure to get offers.
I made a mistake. A terrible, terrible mistake. I should have left in 33.
Nonsense. Your prospects are still good.
I wasn't speaking of prospects. I never should have worked under this regime. Don't you see?
Isn't this a bit emotional?
Our beautiful results laid at the feet of bullies who drag us back into the dark ages of fear and superstition. Aryan physics. Ha! Not one exceptional mind amongst them. No vision, no moral sense. By the time we are finished, the Institute won't be worth salvaging, and there won't be a single Jew left to be.
Lisa, you'll find a place. Our work will continue.
Yes, of course. Some things cannot be taken away. A friendship like ours. I know you don't like to talk about feelings, and perhaps there's no need to, as we know each other so well. But with rumors of war, I wouldn't want to leave things unsaid. Our years working together at the Institute, to me, they were the most beautiful part of my life. I would have told you sooner, only...
It wasn't our way.
No, but so much has changed. And now, these results, what are they trying to tell us?
Chemically, I can measure the reaction parameters, but the physical mechanisms.
Leave the physics to me.
Good. That's settled then.
It's just, I can't quite imagine myself in exile.
Since the Reich, we decent Germans are all exiles, even within these hallowed walls. Did you really think that science could save us?
No, Hanchen, but I thought, dared to think, that we might save science.
Lights down on Meitner and Hahn, lights up on Frisch and Dana, resuming their conversation.
Your aunt's relationship with Hahn, their friendship as she calls it. Some friend didn't once mention her in his Nobel acceptance speech, didn't cite her in papers. For years, to the end of his life, he edited her out of the story.
Well, that may be harsh. My aunt ceased to be an asset to Hahn, certainly. I don't doubt that he felt relieved to see her go when she did, but had she...
Couldn't he have stood up for her, prevented it?
Not without placing his own position at risk. And in any case, not for long. There was no significant resistance in the German scientific community. Hahn, von Lau, even Strassmann, the most honest of that bunch, they grit their teeth and went along. In any case, if my aunt had not left when she did.
Yes, of course, the possibilities are too awful to think about.
Well, the mother of the atomic bomb, she was called after the war.
But your aunt staunchly refused to work on the bomb.
Harry Truman's idea of a compliment. The atomic bomb would be my aunt's crève coeur, her heartbreak for the rest of her life.
Well, I guess I should go.
Have I disappointed you, Dana? Life is so much messier than fiction. So many loose ends.
Disappointed? Not at all. Dissuaded? Not entirely.
Well, I didn't try very hard.
Is that Austrian for I like you, Dana? I like you too. Okay, so you gave me a hard time. Just remember, I will tell Lisa Meitner's story.
If I could make a request.
Anything.
When you write this play of yours, resist the urge to depict my aunt as a victim. She would have hated that. She used to say to her students, life need not be easy so long as it is not empty. That was my tante Lisa.
Blackout? Let's chat a little bit about, let's have either another cannoli or perhaps we need a beer to discuss this one afterwards. Germaine, thank you for coming. We talked a lot before we produced this play about the many dimensions of this as you bring past and present together. But let's talk about the heartbreak that you wanted us to portray. What is at the root of the heartbreak? Is it simply about the atomic bomb, or are there other levels to that?
Well, one can only imagine the horrors of those years. Hitler was going wild. You know, he had so many targets. It wasn't just Jews, it was homosexuals, it was people of other religions, it was Roma people. I think we have all been through the ringer in this country these past years. I would say multiply that by 100, and we can begin to imagine what Lise Meitner lived. And to think that it was her finding that facilitated the worst carnage of all.
Yes, no, that comes through very clearly. But there's so much that you accomplished by making their lives seem real, that the exchange between Otto and Lisa, and ultimately with her nephew, were just ordinary relationships, right? But let me go to talk a little bit about Dana, as you're kind of our way into this, and you are the playwright that's going to write her story. What are you coming away with from this play through this character?
I think she does feel sort of an intense historical as well as personal affinity. And I think with Lise Meitner and her story, and I think that having sort of the young pubescent little nobody act as our conduit into this helps us think about the types of stories that history hides from us, right? And the types of characters that so often don't get their due. And so to see her really campaigning and really searching deep into history for something that she can bring back out and sort of hold up to the light and say, look at this achievement, look at this beautiful thing. I think that is something that really, really drives her and comes through in a really interesting way.
Yeah, that was clear from your performance. The other three actors played historical figures. Do you guys want to talk a little about the challenge of playing someone who was real? And attempting to find the idea that you need to get across as an actor in 2021. Let me start with Lisa herself. Barbara, what were the challenges of getting to know Lisa as a real historical person?
Well, it was actually very fascinating to see how much there was to how easy it was to find out a lot about somebody that nobody has really ever heard of. And I think the saddest thing is just, not just the betrayal of her longtime partner and all the work that they did together, her beautiful, beautiful work, his betrayal in not mentioning her. But I also just feel like, she thought it was just this beautiful thing that they were creating together, and then it turned into something so devastatingly horrible that for the rest of her life, she was distraught about her beautiful work being used for that. But it was very interesting to dig into that history and her history as well. Yeah, loved it.
Well, one of the great things about doing plays is how much you learn. And what you, in doing the research, what you find. How about you, Robin? What challenges were there for you as an actor playing a historical person?
Well, not to play him as a heavy. Yeah. I mean, he's obviously the bad guy here, but it was, I mean, To me, Otto Hahn was, he was pulled in a lot of different directions. He was a person of his time, a very male dominated time and culture. In their work culture, he was probably the dominant person. At the same time, after 30 years of Lise being his work wife, there was an emotional, attachment to her. Then there's his ambition, to race toward the Nobel Prize. And then on top of him is this crushing Third Reich that it takes away, we learn in the longer play, takes his son as part of the Hitler Youth, and his wife is in a sanatorium. So, I mean, he's got a lot of anguish going on. He's being pulled in a lot of different directions here. And that's kind of what I try to focus on with him, show the human, the human part of him.
Yeah, that's what makes great theater, And Brian, your character's kind of dealing with the past from a long distance and trying to come to terms with it, but Dana really awakens something in him through this conversation. What do you see as one of the big ideas in the play?
Germaine, thanks so much for this play. It was really lovely. First of all, playing historical people is no different than doing real fictional people, because they're all people, right? And hopefully we're just being ourselves under fictional circumstances. At least that's what we try to do. Anyway, but you have to do a bit of the accent, or you have to age, or you have to do whatever you have to do. As I researched the life of Otto Frisch, it was just so interesting, the tensions and the timings. I mean, think about it. He and his aunt, really solved the problem of nuclear fission at the end of 1938. And then they published a paper in Nature about it in February 1939. And in September 1939, World War II starts. I mean, the collision of these events is just incredible. And then Otto himself actually was much more instrumental to the Manhattan Project and the development of the atomic bomb and Harry Truman's use of it, because he came to America. He worked in the UK group that was working on it. Then he came to America, right? And he actually nearly killed himself several times in different experiments they were doing, because they didn't know what they were dealing with. They were dealing with, this potential for sort of baby fission and a lot of radiation exposure. So I think, the irony is not lost on him. One of the things I tried to play was he really wanted to block her, but he only lives 2 years after this scene. And I think when he realizes how pure and intelligent Dana is, that he just decides to reveal the evidence that he's holding. That's how I came to it.
Yeah. So Germaine, as a playwright, did you incorporate your own struggles to find the truth in your Dana character and in how the play works itself through?
Dana is very much as Otto Frisch just described her. I love all of the comments from our actors. They're so spot on. What I'd like to share is what I see as the most ironic moment of Lise Meitner's life, which to me was being feted and celebrated at a dinner where she was seated next to Harry Truman. And Harry Truman leans over and whispers in her ear, "Ah, so you're the little lady who started it all." And this play was actually first performed in the hometown of Harry Truman, which is Independence, Missouri. And it was brought back for a second performance. So there's many synchronicities going on with this play. The reading of the full play took place in Huntsville, Alabama, which is called Rocket City, where many German scientists
right.
and former SS were sent after the war.
Wow. Wow. My goodness. So talk about ironies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it just in the idea of writing a play about it, and allowing this art form to try to come to terms with this enormous scientific achievement that turned into such an enormous destructive thing. I mean, that really creates a lot of food for thought, in seeing that. So thank you for bringing the words to us. And I think I can speak for the company in that we had a tremendous journey in learning all about this. And there's still so much more under the covers here. If we really were to look at, the society from which this work was allowed to progress.
The play is Wendy and Terry at the Porch to Paradis, a short play by Ian Bonner. The place is somewhere in heaven. The setting, a cozy sitting room. There's a love seat and an armchair, a side table with a radio on it, maybe a floor lamp. At Rise, Wendy is sitting in the love seat. She's writing carefully in a notebook, maybe humming a Motown tune to herself.
It's open.
Wendy.
Terrence. What are you doing here?
Well, I seem to have died.
Well, I saw in the paper, but I didn't expect.
They'd let me in. I was surprised myself. I guess God liked Corpus Christi more than the Catholic League said he did.
God actually read the script. But no, I had no doubts about your soul. I just didn't think I'd see you so soon.
You're not happy to see me?
Of course, I'm happy to see you. I just thought it would be a while before you got around to checking up on little old me.
You were the first person I wanted to see.
Bullshit.
I swear to God.
Terrence McNally dies and goes to heaven where he can ask to see anyone he wants. I mean, Shakespeare, Chekhov, Tennessee Williams, Maria Callas. And when he gets to heaven, he says to St. Peter,
Take me to Wendy Wasserstein.
Why?
It just rolls so nicely off the tongue, Wendy Wasserstein.
It's prettier in the original Yiddish, Wendy Wasserstein. Now tell me the truth.
The truth is, I missed you, Wendy. What?
I remember when it was men that you missed. I remember your exact words. Wendy, I love you. I will always love you. But the truth is, I miss men.
You ought to remember those words. You put them in your play.
I want us to be the most remarkable friends, the Noel and Gertie of our day.
The first time I saw that scene performed, I was convinced that every person in that theater knew that you had written it about the two of us.
Today, this is who I am. I have no other choice. I miss men. Then comes Wendy with the witty punch to the gut. It's all right, Terry. I miss men too. That was good. I put that in the play too, of course. You can't say something that inspired and not use it later.
I could see the headline on the front page of the New York Times. I would forever be known as the gay playwright who slept with Wendy Wasserstein.
But no one figured out anything, and you continued to be known as the gay playwright who slept with Edward Albee. And Christopher Durang, Nathan Lane, Tennessee Williams, Ed Koch, Liberace.
I never slept with Nathan Lane.
They know about us now. I don't know if you've heard.
I hadn't heard, actually. Who are they?
Anyone who cares enough about the love lives of deceased late 20th century New York playwrights. They made a documentary about me for PBS, and in it, Peter tells a story about a time he saw us kissing.
Oh, fucking Peter.
It's not his fault. That was just last year. Well, my last year. I almost took our secret to the grave.
What was it finally got you?
They gave me a Lifetime Achievement, Tony, and an American Masters Special. It would have been rude not to die.
No, but really.
The official cause of death was complications of coronavirus disease 2019 during the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm a little disappointed, really. I was trying my best to die of lung cancer.
Ah, cancer is so cliche.
No, I'm serious. I had plague nipping at my heels for half my life, but I thought I was going to get away. I was 81 and working with 3/4 of a lung total. I was this close to having cancer on my death certificate, but a curse of revenge grows at the moldering strands, and it was plague that got me in the end.
It's really quite tragic, isn't it? And I mean that in a good way. It's Sophoclean.
Oh, I'd much rather watch Oedipus than be him.
You know, this may run deeper than I thought. Oedipus takes plague during a plague. Actually, it turns out he caused the plague. This could be something. Didn't you once say I reminded you of your mother?
You are nothing like my mother.
We talked about getting married once. Sometimes I really believed we would get married. I guess every round-faced Jewish theater girl in love with a cute, funny gay boy goes through that in some way or another.
That's not what we were.
No, you're right. I guess it wasn't.
I wanted to marry you. I wanted to have children with you. I wanted to be with you and no one else.
But what were we? It doesn't seem right to say lovers.
And not because I was afraid of getting AIDS.
We weren't a couple. It wasn't a tryst or a fling or an experiment.
But no matter how much I loved you and how much I wanted to spend my life with you, I knew it could never happen. I couldn't marry you, Wendy, because marrying you would have been a relief. A relief to my mother, who would never again have to worry about Mrs. O'Brien in the pew might ask how Terence is doing in New York. It would have been a relief to every priest who ever had to listen to one of my awkward confessions. Every upper middle class Irish father concerned about how much time his son was spending with that McNally boy. And it would have been such a huge fucking relief to that McNally boy. Lying awake in the middle of a stifling hot Corpus Christi night, praying as hard as he could for God to make him normal. Wendy, I couldn't marry you because I knew if I did, part of me would be doing it because I could marry you. I love you far too much to do.
Okay. Fine.
She kisses his forehead. He turns to look at her. She takes his face in her hands. They kiss. It is a passionate kiss, but the furthest thing from foreplay. A kiss for kissing's sake.
So what do you call us? What were we?
What does it matter what we call it?
I want to understand it. I want to be able to talk about it, to be able to say a word to someone and have them understand what we were.
Then call it Terence and Wendy. There are no other names for it because there was never been anything else like it in the history of language.
That's good. But I think Wendy and Terry sounds better. Wendy and Terry were sweethearts. They had a quarrel one day. Terry, he vowed he would leave her, said he was gone away. He never's coming home. He's gone away to Rome.
The first time I heard that song, it was Lena Horne singing on the radio. I thought Frankie and Johnny were two men. I was 8 years old and Lena Horne was singing about two men who were sweethearts. Oh, I wanted more than anything to be some man's sweetheart. I never told that to anyone the whole time I was alive.
You do know that Frankie shoots Johnny with her .44.
Frankie shoots Johnny. Othello strangles Desdemona. Don Jose stabs Carmen. That's what sweethearts do.
When you wrote about Frankie and Johnny, nobody shoots anyone. It ends with them listening to the radio and brushing their teeth.
Maybe she shoots him after the play ends.
I don't believe that for a moment.
Okay, well, maybe Frankie shot Johnny before the play started. Maybe Johnny died and somehow Frankie found the strength to go on without him. Maybe she fell in love with a civil rights lawyer and they got married, and maybe she knew at last what it means to have a sweetheart. Maybe 14 years, 1 month, 24 days after Johnny shuffled off his mortal coil, Frankie succumbed to complications of coronavirus disease 2019 during the COVID-19 pandemic. He went to heaven, and the first person she wanted to see was Johnny. And then the play starts.
The play starts with them having sex.
Do people have sex in heaven?
You know, I'm not sure. Maybe.
What do people do around here?
I write. I listen to music. It's nice.
How do you listen to music?
You just turn on the radio. It always plays the most beautiful music.
Well, that just about wraps up my stint on Music for Eternity with Gabriel. Before I go, I'd like to give a great big welcome to Larry Kramer, who I understand has just arrived at the pearly gates. I think you'll like it here, Larry. And now I'm going to leave you with a nice little piano ditty that makes me think about love.
Did it matter, Wendy?
Did what matter?
Our lives, our plays, Wendy and Terry, any of it. We put so much energy into trying to matter, but did we succeed? Did anything matter?
Terence, hundreds of years after your death, people will still be saying your words on stage. Whenever a high school puts on a production of Shrek the Musical.
I didn't write Shrek. That was David Lindsay-Abaire.
My mistake.
I wrote Anastasia.
Pity I died so young. I would have liked to have written the libretto for the Broadway version of An American Tale 2, Fievel Goes West.
What?
It's a dumb thought, really, but it just occurred to me that you got married but never had a child. I had a kid but never got married. If you combine our lives, we'd seem downright wholesome.
Well, maybe that's why I always felt so drawn to you. We were two halves. We just didn't fit together in a traditional sense.
Terence McNally and Wendy Wasserstein fit together in non-traditional ways.
That's a very good opening sentence.
It is. I like it.
Perhaps we could write the rest together?
Yes, I think we should. Let's listen to the rest of this song first. We have a whole eternity ahead of us.
How you feeling, Jeffrey? Was that the play that you had seen when you selected it from our library?
Absolutely. And it was terrific to have Ian come to our first rehearsal and talk us through a little bit of it and make a couple of changes and really get the praise from all of us that he deserves for writing such a really pretty piece. I'm moved by it because I knew Terence McNally. I worked for him as his playwrights assistant, and so you know, having lost him in the pandemic last year was a shock, even though he was, you know, struggling with you know, his lungs. But yeah, I'm very moved by the piece, and I think it's just such a, you know, a creative thing from Ian and the actors in 3 rehearsals. I mean, what more can you say? Just terrific work, and I applaud them as well.
Ian, do you have to know Terence and his work? I mean, to get everything out of the play, I think you were skillful enough in just making this about a relationship as much as it was about these 2 amazing playwrights. Did you consider that as one of the issues as this was going to performance?
I certainly thought about it, and like, are people going to know who these people are? Obviously, theater people will, but does the average person? But I did try to put in details and just enough hints that you could follow what's going on. I hope that worked.
And also the Frankie and Johnny at the Claire de Lune illusions. It still works even if you don't, bring that to the play, right? Because you kind of just use that as a basis or an underpinning.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you understand that they're playwrights and they're talking about plays, and that gets you there, right?
Yeah. But it's their humanity that comes through more than anything, and so with those seeds that the playwright plants, so that we can fill in, what comes through though is that non-traditional relationship and what they mean to each other.
Yeah, and like Brian said, these are people, and by humanizing them through your performances, I think it accentuated that these are just folks, even though they just happen to be geniuses, and so 2 of the great writers of the late 21st century. And what were the ideas in the play for you as you looked at that script for the first time? What were you seeing as a writer yourself?
As soon as I saw it, I thought, oh, hooray, because this means nothing to anybody but me, but decades ago, I was an intern at Playwrights Horizons, and at that time, both Terence McNally and Wendy Wasserstein were resident playwrights there. And we would like sort of squeeze past, everybody would squeeze past each other in the narrow hallways because it was an earlier building than Playwrights Horizons is now. And I was like, oh, I mean, we never said boo to each other, but she was such a kind and humble person. And I thought, oh, fantastic. I get to do this.
Yeah,
So,
that warmth really came through through your performance, both of you. It was just like watching two wonderful people, connecting, and I'm really rooting for them so much for that. Are there other ideas that are kind of beneath the surface beyond, the homage to these great writers? Jeffrey, are there little buried treasures here to look at?
Well, you touched on it a bit. I think just relationships and reunion. You have two people coming back together. It doesn't really matter that it's in heaven, but they're reunited, and the writing is so clean in this respect that they come back together, and their banter. The banter of friends, the banter of people who share something, both intimate, but also a career, in the theater. They're back and forth about Sophocles and Oedipus, for example. All of this really, really, from the playwright standpoint, just spot on. Also, one thing I really could appreciate about this play is that Wendy, the female character, is a force, a real character. And you don't see that all the time. And I think we're doing a better job in the theater of writing good parts for women. This is a great part for a woman. And so, I thought, who can I find? Who do I know is a real great actress? And Anne was one of the first who came to mind. So I really appreciate that she's a very busy person, and that she agreed to do it. I'm over the moon about it.
Entirely.
Yeah. Was it fun to do something brand new? Something that we had never seen? Usually we're in the business of bringing things to life that have had other lives. But Joe, how was it for you to take on a brand new script and make the character up yourself?
Well, from the first time I read it, I was just completely drawn to it, and so to have an opportunity to work opposite someone like Anne, and that is a thrill. As a matter of fact, they'll tell you how nervous I got when I thought I might not be able to see her because of technology and how I don't do technology very well. And I thought, no, there's no way I'm not doing this scene without seeing her, because most of what I get is off of her. And then Jeff steps in and just helped guide us through some really interestingly specific moments that I know for me helped me understand Terence's journey a lot more. It was fun for me, who I usually wear either a producer or a director's hat, to just sit back and be the actor. And I felt like I was in hands I could trust and working opposite an extraordinary actor. So I felt very lucky.
Ian, am I correct in saying that every word matters, that you as a playwright do not take any line for granted as you go along?
Well, especially if someone's going to read all your plays and make a short play out of them, for sure. But yeah, I mean, there's, only so much you can do in 15 minutes. So I tried to.
Yeah, no, and I think the short form, how do you feel about the short form? I think we've kind of adopted it because I have a short attention span, and so does the culture. And B, it really is a challenge to kind of allow that to be unpacked in one quick burst, and then see what ideas have been left behind.
Yeah, I've always really liked the short form. Some of the first stuff I did was a lot of short films. and you sort of learn that it's its own structure completely, and that in some ways it can have as much in it as a feature or a full-length play.
Yeah, that was very, and it's very interesting as we try to juxtapose these three very different plays together into an evening, how audiences adapt to that. They kind of find the beauty in the contrasts and in the contours of three different stories, and somehow they seem to make sense in the end.